Hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to be joined by our Director of Customer Success, Sarah Mitchell. Today we're going to be going over the latest release of Alpha Anywhere, showing you some of the features in there. We're also going to talk about a person that you may not always talk to, who's your customer success agent. A staff member here is assigned to each and every one of you. You may not know that, and they are here to help you have success with Alpha Anywhere. Sarah's in charge of that program. She's going to be talking about that as well. But we're also here, of course, to answer your questions. And you can type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel or the chat window, depending on your interface. So let's get started. Hello, Sarah, are you there?
I do be here.
Excellent. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter.
All right. That one.
All right.
Can you see it?
I see Alpha Anywhere, and I see
All
the
right,
Cordova
good.
project
All right.
settings.
Yeah, so I wanted to actually start first with the, oh, come on, there we go. Hold on. The GoToWebinar interface is all over my screen. I'm trying to get it moved. Yeah. Where did my window go? Oh, I closed it.
Oh,
gosh. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. There it is. All right, so yes, Dave mentioned Customer Success Manager. Everyone has one, whether you're using Community Edition or you're a paying customer. Everyone is assigned a Customer Success Manager. Your Customer Success Manager is your advocate here at Alpha Software. And I just wanted to mention that today to let you guys know that if you having a problem, want to get some feedback or have a question, you can reach out to us. This is our support page here. Alpha Anywhere, Alpha Transform. Both are good, but if you come in here and you want to connect with us about something, we have an open support ticket, which is our contact us form. But this is a great way to reach out to us if you're looking for help. And I would love it too if folks are interested to connect with their customer success managers to talk to them and have a conversation. They are interested in knowing what you're working on and how they can help make you more successful with the product wherever you are at in your Alpha Anywhere journey or your Alpha Transform journey if you're using Transform. So I just want to throw that out there, folks. I'm going to put this in the chat window. 2023, there will be some changes that are coming to this particular form. It's not particularly useful if you're trying to use it to contact us for help, so we're revamping it. But this is like the main way to get a hold of us for support issues. Excuse me. And then also, if you haven't been to it, this is our support page on our main site. It's been redesigned. Not recently. I think we did it a lot earlier in the year, but it's got a whole bunch of stuff in here you may or may not know about. Obviously, documentation, but we have a video library, this webinar, our community, access to the release notes, our training stuff, and some other resources that are available to you as well.
Now, aside from that form, there's also, our email address, but the form is helpful for us. But there's also a message board. Can you sort of describe where you would probably use one resource over the other?
The user community is what it's referred to as here. But yeah, a message board is a great place to go and just ask questions of the community. Customer success team does monitor it and try to, step in and help if it seems like somebody isn't getting any traction, or if there's something that's being talked about that hasn't been sent in to us with like a test case and stuff that needs to be investigated. So, but you can get there either going through this page or just going to this one. Hot links into Transform because that's where I was at in this section. But forum.alphasoftware.com is a great place to go to post questions, share what you're working on, see what others are doing, maybe help someone out too if you have an answer.
And speaking of questions, someone just asked, how do we find out who is our advocate?
Who is your advocate? Well, you can send us that, fill out that form and contact us. If I know specifically who you are, if you want us to want me to put you in contact with your CSM, I'm more than happy to do that. We can have them contact you after this webinar.
fact, we'll do that. I just we'll contact that person with that with the name and contact info.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we have two right now. We have Andrea Polcaro and James Andrews. It's going to be one of those two individuals, and they have my full support, guys. They're doing a really good job. So great people to talk to. So that was that.
Yeah.
I'm a little. It's been a minute since I've done a webinar.
Oh yeah, I know. I think it's been about 6 weeks for me. So.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, but to keep it rolling along, there was a new release of Alpha Anywhere. So
there was. It
happened. Take a look at that.
It happened last month.
Yep.
Almost a whole month ago.
Not quite a whole month.
November 18th.
So that's all right.
4 days. Yeah. Might as well be a month ago. Anyway, yeah, we put out another release. It's got a few little things in it, but I wanted to just, touch on something that's really, really important for just to start off here. For people building Android apps that need to target, you need to target API level 31 or higher, I think, at this point.
That's right.
But something that happened in those new releases of Android is that they now require your same site cookies to be set. So if you're here for a cookie discussion back when, or if you were here for the webinar or watched the webinar where we talked about cross-origin resource policies or sharing CORS.
I know.
Right. So there's CORS. CORS is a protocol that web browsers follow to prevent websites from making calls to your website and stealing data from it, like making a call to your bank website after you've logged in and saying, hey, what's, my account number information like that. So CORS blocks that from happening. And the same site cookie is a piece of those policies that say like who can talk to me, who can't talk to me. And the same site cookie describes like who can read this cookie. And so for the longest time, iOS and Android apps on a phone weren't handling cookies. So restrictions were added or increased in browsers requiring cookies. So lax, meaning you have to have some level of security to communicate, or none, meaning no security, or no same site restriction. Anyway, it wasn't being handled, and both Apple and Google punted on that, trying to come up with a solution, because the way your Alpha Anywhere app works on a mobile device is it basically runs like a website on the device. So the device is the server, and then the app itself is like the site running on your device, the server. And if you make any calls into your application server to do something like fetch some data from a database or trigger an email on the back end, that is viewed as coming from a website outside of where your server is. So long story short, we've been recommending for the longest time to put the same site setting to unset, meaning no same site property is being set on any cookies, which would allow the devices to read them and the server would let them be read. But that's changed. So you actually now have to set your same site cookies to something else for Android 11 API level 31 and higher. So the new recommendation is to use same site none. If you've read the release notes, we say go to the advanced session same site mode and set it to none. That's just if you're running the classic server. If you're running IIS, you have to set it in a separate place. So I just want to show you guys every little thing you need to do now for these new API levels, and this just applies to Android. So cancel out of here. So I've got fictional app here, right? I've built it. I'm going to ship it as an Android app. And to configure this new settings, there's a few places you need to set it. So first, in the Cordova settings themselves, and I need to, I keep opening the wrong window here. I need to put this off on the side here so I can remember what setting I need to show you guys. So there's two things you need to do with your Android apps. The first is in the Cordova settings when you're building it out, regardless of if you're going to CLI or Ionic. Down in the Android settings, there's something called the host scheme. And so the host is your device, and the app runs on there, and it runs everything as like an HTTP page. This needs to be set to HTTPS. So that's the first thing you need to do. So once you've got that set up here, like that's good to configure here, but you also need to do something else on your server. So in the case of the classic server, and we'll look at the development server, which is the interface is more or less the same. I think the classic server has an additional, or maybe something that the development server doesn't have. I can't remember specifically. But one, you need to be running TLS SSL. So this box here, this needs to be enabled. Your website must be an HTTPS website. It has to be that, otherwise this isn't going to work for you at all. All your callbacks will just be denied. So this needs to be enabled. And then on the advanced tab in sessions, you need to set the same site mode to none. So that's what needs to happen here. Now, do I want to save? Yes, I want to continue. If you're running IIS Alpha Cloud, that is not where you set it. You actually set that in the project properties, which is back on the web project control panel, project properties. Down here in website defaults on the runtime properties, there's a cookie same site value, and here it must be set to none. So those are the places you need to make those changes. Recommend you make those changes and test it. And if you do run into anything, please reach out to us. We want to make sure that you guys are all set and these instructions are clear. So that's the big change on the cookies. I know that people have posted about this in the forum a few times, asking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And this is what we did.
So quick question. Let's say you're using Alpha Launch as your method of publishing your apps. Do you have to worry about any of this?
You have to worry about the server piece.
Just the server piece you have to set up.
Here, okay. Yeah, you have to set this up.
Yeah.
Everything else, like you're not, Alpha Launch doesn't have a Cordova project, so you don't have to set anything there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And by all means, if you're running into something there, let us know like right away so we can get that straightened out.
Great, thank you.
So that's the big change with that. It's going to be required for all Android apps moving forward, especially if you're pushing them to the Google Play Store. So that's the big one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as a reminder, we do have a session from Devcom on.
Yes, we do.
On building Cordova CLI apps.
That does remind me. Let me pull this up real quick.
Great.
We have the Learning Center. I think some people are familiar with it, but we've got all but one Devcom session up in here now. And if you go up, if you have an account on learnalphasoftware.com, some of the sessions from Devcom are free, and so you can watch those. One of those is this Keeping Up with Cordova. The information presented in this presentation is invaluable for anybody trying to move forward building apps towards the future. So if you're looking to build a mobile application on iOS or Android, definitely watch this. It's totally free for you to watch, and it's got a lot of good information. Those same free sessions, I believe, are also available on our YouTube channel.
And this Learning Center is at learn.alphasoftware.com.
Learn.alphasoftware.com, yep.
Fantastic.
Put that in the chat. Learn about all of our core websites here today. So I think that covers the extent of updates for building Cordova apps. We did add another plugin. There's a new photo viewer third-party plugin available.
Actually, can I interrupt you one more time just because we're still back on the learn.alphasoftware.com. Someone said, okay, I went to Devcom, so how do I watch the videos? Do we send out links to that?
We haven't auto-enrolled everyone in that yet. If you went to Devcom, those will be automatically added to your account. If you can't wait for us to process the lists and get those all added, just email us.
And we'll
get that added in sooner.
Yep.
Yeah,
and in the meantime,
just,
the Devcom portal that you used is still up and running and has the recordings of those sessions.
Yeah, everything that's up and learn is identical to what's in the portal right now. There isn't anything extra really.
Eventually, the portal may go away, but everything will remain at learn.alphasoftware.com, and you'll be signed up. Yep.
Definitely, yeah. We're going to leave that portal up beyond the auto enrollment of everyone who went to DevCon. I think we did that last year too.
We did actually. In fact,
Yeah.
I think we still left it up. So
I think it's still up there.
Please, we got the password. Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I guess that brings up another thing I should point out. We will auto enroll people with the email that we think you use to attend DevCon, but if that isn't what you use to create a learnalphasoftware.com account, it might be extremely beneficial to us to know which one we should add that content to.
Good plan.
Yeah. So I was showing the third-party plugin here. Let's turn all these on.
Okay.
It's in required third-party plugins. Photo viewer, Cordova plugin photo viewer. It's sometimes hard to figure out where these things are.
There is a search.
Oh, there's a search. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. Which I find perplexing. Oh. Okay. I'm running build 8368. It's not the release. Let's fix that. No, thank you. Hold on. Cancel.
That's funny.
Let's change that. Let's take a peek at the nightly build, which is definitely beyond the current release.
Can't show you the newest features if you don't have the newest version.
Where are they? Yeah, definitely install the new release before you start showing it to people. There we go.
Sarah, not surprisingly, someone's asking about your presentation from DevCon. It is.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
But it's darn close to done. It's darn close to
I have to
being
redo
edited.
it.
It's going to be up there, and yeah. So
I feel so bad about that. I recorded it, but none of the pop-ups got recorded because I set up the screen recording wrong, and I didn't notice until after I did it all, and I'm really upset about it.
Yeah. It'll be up shortly. Thank you for your patience, though. On that.
Yeah. Oh, we should search again. Photo. Cordova photo viewer. Okay. This is the new thing that got added. Information about it. It's for Android and iOS. It lets you view an image, like a PNG, from a URL, as if it was on the device already. So I don't know if we utilize that in any action JavaScript. It wasn't very clear to me if we have, but that's available to anybody who wants that kind of functionality. And you can learn more about the plugin itself at GitHub, in the GitHub documentation, which I'll post a link to here.
So this allows you to pinch zoom and all kinds of other stuff.
Yes.
Okay, superb.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then I suppose the other thing that's actually worth mentioning, there's a few others. So there's some stuff like linked reports. If you got linked reports and they've got HTML tables in them, there's a new collapsed HTML table rows that takes out the extra white space between data, kind of tighten up your reports a bit. And then in the list control actions, we just made it a little bit easier or made it more obvious that some of the actions that are in there allow you to select more than one list. So let's look at that real quick. Excuse me, perennial cough. So this is a list, this is a UX control. And I'm gonna add a list control. We'll call this one list 1. And we're going to connect it up to the Northwind's database real quick. Nothing too fancy here. SQL, cancel. Northwind. Let's do customers. Mix it up, right?
Have you ever not done customers?
And sometimes I do products.
Oh, fair.
And there's our fields. And just layout, fine. And then we'll add another one. Let's use the Genie this time. Quick setup Genie. Connection string, Northwind. And because you mentioned it, employees.
All right. Now we've mixed it up.
Oh my gosh, yes. Select all. I don't want photo. I don't know what's in there, but it might be a lot. And okay. Wait a few minutes for that to load. Ooh, interesting. Okay. And then we'll add a button. We'll call it refresh lists. I want to use the primary subtheme. I prefer it to the base. It just makes it more obvious. Also, apparently we're using the dark. Put a new line after that. So if we go in this button and we add a new action from the list controls, action, multiple actions, click OK. Oof. The example that we've got here is the refresh data. You click OK. So the change here is that this is now made it more obvious that you can actually pick more than one. So refresh data can be run on multiple lists. Before you had to type that in manually. This is just a quality of life improvement here. And so when that runs, if there were any changes to the data in the database for these lists, running refresh will pull that data back down. Yes, run the server. Waiting for the server to start. So there we go. So we click that. If there was data to fetch, it would fetch it. And I don't know if that doesn't reselect anything, so, but that was the change. But the more interesting change, I think, and I've had people write in about this before. Does everybody remember when we did this series on building a tabbed UI with a UX? And if you're not familiar with that, go check it out. Here, let's do this. So panel cards, I think it's Panel Navigator. Panel Navigator, panel card, around. Panel card around. Well, let's put this guy inside of a footer. For fun, the footer is a container. A panel footer container type. This is not sorted alphabetically. There it is. Insert around. So this is a panel navigator. It defaults to carousel, which means you have to like do something to swipe the screen to make it go to the next one. But there are other options, including a tab band or tab buttons, which are different. And then for bonus round, we'll change the sub theme to the flared tabs because everybody likes that. Is this one? Alrighty. Just take a peek at what this is. This is the tabs are a user interface methodology for displaying multiple screens of information. So here's our two tabs. with let's add a button here. There's an action, this might be more than one, but let's do this. When you add a UX component, you can open a UX component in a dynamic panel, in a panel navigator. This is a way to do something like you've got a list of customers and you want to open up a screen for editing. You can use Action JavaScript to like use a different UX to be the screen and dynamically add it to the UI. We'll go with primary. Okay, open a UX. Kill that. I'm also gonna tell these guys to fill because it'll be a little bit easier to view. And let's not use that dark theme. I think it might be a bit too dark for this webinar, especially in the recording after. So let's go with, where is blue to? There it is. All right, so that'll give us a white background with blue buttons. So the open UX action, you can choose where that UX gets opened, and that's in our Action JavaScript. So if we go open a UX, and there's two options, there's open UX and one to edit a current record. And hopefully we'll see here. So if you pick, well, there's tabbed UI pane, that's different. Dynamic panel. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I got to be in the other one. It's this one. Open a UX to edit a current record or enter a new record. So this is really useful for automatically populating a UI with information from like a selected list item. But one of the drawbacks of doing this in the past was that it always reused the dynamic panel. So if you called this action again for a different record, it would just replace the content in the existing tab you had open with the new record. This checkbox, if you turn that off, will create a unique tab for each instance that gets created to view those records, which gives you something that you didn't previously have or was a little bit required a little bit of effort to code around it with JavaScript. So the panel navigator 1, dynamic panel title could be something like, you could call a JavaScript function to give it a title. Let's just do that. Get panel title. I'm going to copy that. We'll keep everything else the same here. UX name, mode, existing record. So this only applies to a list. Let's do list 1. That's okay. That's fine. We'll go fix that in a minute. Let's see if I have a customers. Customers. Sorting. I don't think I do. So let's give this one just a bogus UX for now. Like arg1. I'll come back and fix that. I want to save everything that I'm doing here so we can quickly go make a panel or a UX for editing this list, which I believe is customers. Yes, it is. Okay. So let's make, hold on. The taskbar is covering up my tabs. Turn that off. Now I can see them. Okay, so come back here. Let's make a new UX real quick. And just as a tip, this is one of the fastest ways you can add a whole bunch of controls to your UX for editing a database. If you're going to build mobile apps though, make sure that you don't data bind. So this is the create multiple new controls at once screen. There's an option down here to populate the list from a table. So here you can say like, hey, yeah, I do actually. I want to go to the Northwind. I want to populate all these controls from the customers table. Down here in data binding, just turn it off. if you're building a mobile app. Data binding is really only meant for apps that are running in a web browser that have a connection. It's a little bit similar to how the grid component requires a connection all the time. It fetches the data on demand. It needs the access to the internet to save when you save. It's not going to persist things to local storage or IndexedDB. You'd have to add all that stuff yourself. But this right here is a real quick way to add everything in. So you click OK. It's generated all my fields for me. I click OK here. We'll wait for that to populate everything. We'll just save this as edit customers. I hope. There we go. Uh-oh. Cancel. All right. So that's our UX. So we come back here, go back to our open UX. Let's edit this. Let's choose our edit customers UX and not arg1, which is temporary placeholder. Edit customers. Okay. So that's all that. I believe that's all we need to set up here. The other piece though is to write our get panel title. So we'll save that. Let's save all this. Let's go to list 1 and make sure it's returning our primary key, because we got that warning about it. The primary key is set in return value on the data source page. There we go. That's what we need there. And then over in JavaScript functions, we're going to add this function get panel title. And it needs to return the title. And we're going to say title equal dialog get value dialog object, which is the JavaScript object you can use to call functions and methods. Get value, control click down or arrow down, list 1. We'll just return the value, which is the primary key. And that's going to set the panel tab to the value of the list. And we should probably do one more thing, and is make sure that the list doesn't allow null selection, so that something is always selected. And then let's run it. So that button, the open the UX button, is in the footer. So that's down here. So we click on that. There's Anitar. Yeah, I know. Open the UX. There's Blouse. All right. See how it's opening a new one for each one of these guys. So if you go in here and you enable reuse by dynamic panel, which is the default behavior. And we wait. We go Anton. There's Anton. If we come back here and pick Bonap though, it's going to go to that tab again. And notice that it didn't update the tab name. It used the original tab. So that reuse panel, dynamic panel stuff, if you need it, is available there. You have a question about that?
It looks like, sorry, it looks like there is a question, but I can't quite work out what it is though. They want to maybe rephrase the question. That would be helpful. And if not, we can go on and.
Oh, I see. How do you return from a dynamic panel?
Yes.
So I mean, I can attempt to tackle that. The dynamic panel is really the only other thing to mention other than you can add your own reports have a construct now for missing images. I can't really explain this very well. If your report references an image that doesn't exist, it goes off and looks for something in the web project folder to replace that image, and you can actually create your own now to replace that. Which is this? It's A5 image underbar no exist. If you want your own custom image to placeholder, you can just replace that. And the web project folder is literally the root of your project. It's this space right here at the top level on the web project's control panel alongside all of your components. Oh, there we go. Okay. So that's really the bulk of what was in that release. It wasn't a huge release because we just had a release in October. But I had a few things there, some new things. We also had, I believe, a fair amount of bug fixes. Yeah, we did. So yeah, that's that's the update. Did anybody have any questions about that particular release, or even really any release that we've had ever this year? I should probably qualify that this year. Any release this year, not ever. I can't speak to a release in 2000.
Alpha 5 version 4.
No. We no longer support that.
Yeah, fair. That's about it. Someone was asking about Transform, any news on the new pricing and stuff like that. We hope to announce that in January, along with a free tier, which is what we were hinting at during DevCon. Well, not just hinting at, actually stating outright.
Yep.
So new ways of pricing that product, which will make it a lot more attractive for you to bring it to your clients in a cost-effective manner that still lets you make money.
Yes.
But that looks like it for questions. We'll give everyone a minute or two.
I think I want to answer this question about how do you return from a dynamic panel?
Well, let's try it. Yeah. Why
yeah.
not?
So it's going to depend a little bit on the interface you built. I presume from this question that you're not using a tab UI, that maybe you've got something else like programmatic setup. So if we go and yeah, live preview that. No, yes. All right. So let's just take a peek at that real quick. Now in this case, this is a programmatic tab or programmatic panel navigator. So there's no label shown anywhere. So that name that we gave this panel when it shows up, you don't see it, so it doesn't really matter, right? That it doesn't change right now, except that right now I have no way to get back to where I came from because I've set this up as programmatic, which means that the panels only change if something like a workflow, an action, or JavaScript tells it to change. The user can't go in there and just like swipe left or right to navigate between, which is what the carousel behavior is. So you actually need to add something in to go back. And if you look here, there's something that's called has previous card button. So let's take a look at that. Let's add a panel header. No control bar. We're going to keep this simple for now. And in that panel header, we're going to add a button. And we're going to call it back. And that's all we're going to do to this guy. We're going to go back to our panel navigator. We're going to tell it has a previous card button. And the button ID is button 3, because that's the one that I just added but didn't rename, but we can double check that by clicking here and double checking yes, button 3. So this is coded as being button 3 is a back button. So now, whenever that button is clicked, it'll go back to the previous panel that you were looking at, which isn't necessarily the panel right before. So as you recall, there are 2 lists in here on 2 separate panels, panel 1 and panel 2. If we open up blouse here, observe that that back button has appeared now. And if I click on that, it takes me back to where I was. So that's the most straightforward way to add that functionality in. If you don't want that, if you want to have more control over what that means, you can alternatively just add action JavaScript to the click action. There's a panel, there's a bunch of panel actions in here, including set the active panel or navigate. Navigate being in the context of a panel navigator. It's not, navigate doesn't apply to the panel layout. But here you can do that same behavior. First, previous, next, last, history first, last, back, forward. So history back would be the last panel that was visited before the one that you're on. No, let's not save the changes. And if you don't want that button shown unless you're on a specific panel, you're going to want to use these client-side show hide expressions to simply just compare the active panel name to something. So maybe this should only be seen if we're on panel card. Sorry, let's do it. Let's call it the UX panel. And I think I have to put that in quotes. Oh, nope, it doesn't like that. Let's go back and look at that again. Syntax rules. Single equals. There we go. There we go. It likes that. And then here, instead of calling that function to set the panel name, let's call it UX panel. All caps. And I think I'm going to turn off, let's just turn off this previous card for now. Give it a minute to load. So you'll see a thin blue, you should see a thin blue bar at the top with nothing in it. Oh, it's not even there. And I'll click open UX. Oh, it didn't show up. Why didn't it show up? Huh. Very interesting. I wonder if this is holding on to button 3. Can I clean that out? I cannot. Turn that off. Please hold while the panel is rendered. Let's take that out real quick. Ooh, interesting question. Do we have a webinar about the hidden undocumented quirks of panels? No, technically they would be documented if we had that. So there's our back button. Now let's add that back in here. Syntax rules, is it single? It's double quotes. Insert panel. Panel name.
I think it might be worth doing another panel webinar though again.
It is definitely worth it. Yeah, in the new year we're going to be
so that's a really good suggestion there.
Yeah, it is a good. We're going to be revisiting. I just need to make sure that I've done this right here. UX panel. Yeah. I'm wondering if adding the dynamic panel doesn't trigger that to check itself. There we go. It must not. Well, it should be showing up, but it's not. So we're gonna put a pin in that to look at that. But active panel name would map to the name in the tab. It is panel name. Don't think it's that. Oh, that's the panel header. There we go. Display name is the same thing. All right. So yeah, I'll make a note. There, I can't guarantee that I always get the answer 100%, but if you are, working with dynamic panels and you want control over when those buttons are shown, you can do that with those client-side show hide events. You can use action JavaScript to navigate the panels, and then if you want to get all the way down to the code, there's a whole bunch of UX and panel methods that you can call, which are available or are documented in documentation.
Very cool. Here's a question. I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Maybe you do. How do you check for a group change in templating in the star commands?
A group name and template, what?
A group change in templating.
A group change in templating for the star commands?
Yeah, if you want to.
What are the star commands?
Ask that if they could do that. I think that's where it iterates through a series of records, but maybe we'll get some more clarification on that question.
Yeah, that could mean a lot of things.
Okay. And let's see what else we've got here. Someone was asking about the speed improvements for when we might start seeing speed improvements for
UX components.
For UX components, exactly, and
yeah,
that work is far along actually at this point. So that should be out in the next release. It does need to be tested.
Oh, and the freeform layout. Someone's asking about the Viewbox freeform layout. Let's go look at it.
Okay.
See, a Viewbox is a control that you tell it what the data is, and you tell it what the how it looks. And oops, that's a list. Add control Viewbox. It's a data control, meaning it can have a value, can give a value. In theory, could save, or it could be data bound to a table field. But a Viewbox is also very dumb. It doesn't really make a lot of assumptions about how you want it to do things. You have to tell it everything to do. And it also doesn't have in some of the built functionality that a list provides, such as CRUD operations, meaning saving your data back to the database. So while you can populate from a database query, it doesn't save back. You have to do that yourself. So let's go to our favorite database in the world. Let's get some products. And product discontinued, not quantity. So we get product name, product ID, discontinued. This is pretty familiar, right? It looks like a list. And here's our fields, but you will notice there are nothing to configure here because that's on you. With the layout, your layout is going to be given all of the data. So in a list, you only have to worry about the layout for a single record. With a Viewbox, you have to worry about the layout for all of the records. So in here we have data controls. And if we were to group select all of these and put them in, click OK, This is a quick explanation what this is. Notice they're all mashed together. This is all one line. If we make that full screen fill container, which is the screen in this case, it's gonna be a long line that wraps. Or doesn't wrap, apparently. I have to put it in a container. Let's put it in a container. Sort around. Third time's the charm. There we go. So see, it just goes on. There's no line breaks. There's no formatting here. You can't really tell what you're looking at because everything is just single spaced. So that layout on that view box with all those records that we pulled down from products, that's on you to set up. And there are ways to do it. So in here, in this select control type, there are containers that are available, including one that gives you like a list row layout like view. So we'll put that in there. So this container, all of the fields in it, it will appear as if it's in columns. So we'll take a look at that real quick. So there we go. But you'll notice it's still not lined up in columns. So that's a piece that you got to solve yourself if you want those to look more like a table. And there's lots of ways to do that through classes and stuff and through these settings. But something that the list does that the Viewbox doesn't do is the list has a way to group data. So you have a bunch of customers, you want to group them by the country they're from. You can go in there and turn on group options and have like group headers, and then the data will be sorted for you, and then those records will, for each one of those customers, will appear within those groups with some heading at the top that might be like the country name. Viewbox doesn't have that, and to my knowledge, there's no setting set up here to do that for you. So it's something you actually have to do through the freeform editor, which is the second option here. Now, if you are working with Viewboxes and you're not super familiar with HTML and that kind of stuff, I would recommend starting with the Genie and getting as close to the view that you want before switching to freeform editor, just so that you can take advantage of all the built-in formatting we have there. But in terms of grouping the data, you will have to track whatever value it is that you're grouping by, and then insert those headers yourself. You'll also need to sort the data yourself based on your group value. And there's a bunch of, is it in here? I think it's command. Yeah, so there's some commands. So probably the big one is the if command. So you'll need to do something like track what the current value is in your group, whatever that is, put it in some temporary variable or call a JavaScript function, which you can do from client-side templating, and just check that every time with an if statement. And then when it changes, then you know you need to output your header. So that's all you'd have to do. If logical expression. So here, if, and I think it's just end if. Let me check again. If, all one word, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you know, if it's if discontinued, I think we do true. This is like a little bit of a mix of JavaScript and TPL, or not TPL, client-side templating. I apologize if I mix those up because TPL has like client-side templating at times. Here we go, H2. And I think that should work. Let's see what the preview does for us. Ah, F. Okay. F. Discontinue, there we go.
Mhm.
So this isn't going to be helpful because the word discontinued is going to be everywhere. But essentially, if discontinued is what I wanted to group by, then I would want to squirrel away when it was false to output that header. And then when it was true, actually it should say if discontinued equals T, then discontinued. If it was true, then I would output the header, otherwise false. So that gives you that grouping. See how this one was true, so it didn't print it. But that's basically what you have to do. We don't have any demos or examples that show you specifically how to go about doing that, but that's the gist. And you can, in a Viewbox with, this is all client-side templating, you can call a function using the at syntax. So we'll do insert a command, and I think it's function name. I think it's just at function name. And then if you have a function here, let's do it for this control. And I'm gonna have to I actually don't remember what gets passed into this, but I will go grab the documentation for you so you can look more into how to use functions. Whoop. See here. Client side template, please hold. Let's drag this over here. So there's actually two articles. I'll share the link of this one. This is the overview, and then this one is all the commands, like it's a reference kind of thing. So, but in here you can call functions. The functions are passed data, and that data will tell you what you can access or what you're currently looking at. I believe you can also pass values into the function. But you do have information about what value you are looking at when that function gets called. So hopefully that gives you a direction to go.
Cool. So we've got
yeah.
just 1 minute left. We're not going to get to all the questions, but just quickly, what's the advantage of using say a view box over a list control? Why would you go for a view box?
Viewboxes have a few data source options the list doesn't have. Mm-hmm. For example, under SQL query, you have the option to do like a nested SQL query. Okay. So that's one thing you can do with this. They also can be used to go directly against a REST API, which I don't believe the list control has. But because they don't have all the built-in CRUD operations and stuff like that, they are considered lighter weight or smaller. So they take quicker, up less space, might load faster. It depends on how you're populating the data.
Right. Okay. Sure.
But keep in mind they don't have those built-in tools that track the changes and save the data for you. Like they won't do that. You have to do that all yourself. Right. Likewise, they don't persist their data to local storage. You got to do that yourself, I believe. I think.
Yeah, they were meant to be a lighter weight version of
Yeah,
version control. So
it's meant to be a
starting
way
have
to present a different view of your data.
Mhm.
And then someone asked, you know, versus a form view control is a view box that has some extra stuff we built on top of it for you.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, we're actually over time. I know there are a couple of questions we didn't get to, so go ahead and send them into guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. We'd be happy to take care of them. Sarah, thank you very much for presenting today. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We're looking forward to seeing you at our next webinar, which is a week from today. Until then, take care and stay well. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.